All right, we'll find out. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the 1st of July meeting of Te Puna Kōrero. Let's move straight to the agenda. We have apologies from Councillors Waddle, Ngalo, Morell and Taku Parai is also not here, and Councillor Ford for lateness, she'll be here. So just confirming that we do have a quorum. Let's move on to, I'm going to move the apologies and seconded by Councillor Duncan. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. Let's move to public forum. There have been no requests to speak in public forum this morning. Conflict of interest declarations. Are there any conflicts of interest for this part of the meeting? No, that being the case, we'll move on to the fact that there are no items of extraordinary business. And that leads us to item 5, which is confirmation of the minutes of the Te Puna Kōrero meeting of the 24th of June this year. I'll move them to get them on the table. Do I have a seconder, please? Yeah, thank you very much, Jeff. I'll move them as a true and correct record. Does anybody want to make any comments, have any corrections? No? Oh, sorry. Councillor Weehapi.
I don't want to make any corrections, but it was just clarification that we talked about Te Kapehu Whitby Link Road. Is that correct?
No, it's just Te Kapehu. Yeah, yeah. We talked about it at the meeting before, but it's just those two words. Yeah. Right, and we talked about the signage that will be before you enter that link road. Yeah, which will indicate that it goes to Whitby. Yeah, yeah. So I'm now going to put those minutes. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. Thank you, everyone. That moves us to item 6.1, which is hearings and deliberations. This is a decision for an easement over Elsden Park, which we've talked about before, particularly for the wetland and the construction of a bund. I'll move that report to get it on the table. Do I have a seconder, please? Mayor Baker, thank you very much. And we have one submitter, and I'll invite Christine Jacobson to the table, please, to speak to your submission. Thank you, Christine. You just need to turn your mic on. You've got 5 minutes.
Kia ora tātou. Thank you for the opportunity for speaking in support of my submission. I want to make it clear that I support the wetland construction. I think it's a creative solution for an ongoing problem, and it will have some good biodiversity outcomes as well, which is always joy to my ears. My submission was because I wanted to ensure the protection of the other community recreation asset on Elsden Park, which was built and has been renewed with the financial support of the council. Now, the council has leased that underlying land to Wellington Hockey, and the council made a significant investment through the shared responsibility scheme for both the construction and the renewal. And we expect and the council expects Wellington Hockey to maintain that turf in good condition and to renew it. My concern was that if the Wellington Water design for the wetland hadn't considered how the turf would be protected as a result of the changes on the other half of Elsden Park, that the Wellington Hockey could be up for increased maintenance costs and renewals. For example, at the moment, an artificial turf surface needs to be renewed about every 10 years. If as a result of increased inundation or other consequences as a result of the wetland, that renewal period got reduced to, say, 7 years. That means over a 20-year period, instead of coming to the council and the community seeking support, financial support, twice, it would be 3 times. Now, what is chump change in for a big water project is actually quite a lot for a community organisation to be able to raise. So I'm pleased that as a result of my submission, Wellington Water and the Parks team have been now in conversation with Wellington Hockey about how this risk can be ameliorated. But it did just raise on principle the fact that, which I wish to speak to, which is that there are quite a lot of water resources on from that the water pipes on council reserve land, and that there are the focus on solving a water solution can also have other consequences. Sometimes are unintended consequences, which are unfortunate, but there are also opportunities for the water services and the parks teams to work together to create creative solutions, which may in fact be cost saving if projects can be juggled around and made to work efficiently for both the water outcomes plus also the parks and recreation outcomes. The biodiversity outcomes and protections are usually dealt with through resource consent processes. The recreation tends to be on the side and an afterthought, as it was with Elsdon Park. So with other projects, so I'm just thinking forward to the future, because I do support the Elsdon wetland, particularly now that Wellington Water and the hockey people are talking, is just thinking about future projects and the opportunities that these create for win-win opportunities for not just water and biodiversity, but also our recreation. And for example, I know that the major sewer pipe running through Bothamley Park, which is also a major recreation facility for the community. And so I would ask the council and Wellington Water to think creatively at the opportunities, because in the scheme of things, Wellington Water projects are big budget monies. And I say generally the recreation ones and the parks budgets are chump change. So there are good win-win opportunities. And that's really what I wanted to ask you to think about in the future.
Thank you, Christine. You make some good points. I think, I mean, just off the top of my head, I think we are talking around Bothamley Park particularly. But you do make good points about those opportunities. Can I ask, before we ask any questions, officer or someone to comment on the technical aspects that you raise about the issues around inundation and impacts on the hockey turf? Who's going to do that? David. Oh, no, not David. 2 of them. You.
Kia ora, councillors. Mr Chair, I'd like our Wellington Water representative to take that question, please. Lindy McMillan is project manager in control of the project overall, so I'll ask Lindy to reply.
Thanks, Lindy.
Good morning, everyone. So in response to Christine's concerns about the wetlands is going to be lined, so there will be no adverse effects in terms of water table and adverse effects in that way. The other portion of the works, actually the bund works that the easement refers to, there is at a modelled 100-year flood level with some additional allowance for rain impacts due to climate change. There is some additional effects to the turf. So we do see at a base case that the turf is affected already, but with the introduction of that bund, that impact is increased slightly over the turf. We are working with the parks team and Wellington Hockey to see if there's anything we can do to alleviate that. But at this stage, the wetlands itself should not have an impact on the hockey turf.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from councillors. Can I ask a question? You say not impacted significantly or very much. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, so currently
much of an impact?
In our flood modelling, the turf at a base case at 100-year flood, so it's not additionally affected at a 10-year or a 30-year flood. At a 100-year base case, the turf is impacted, so we will see pooling on the turf. But with the bund works, that could increase by up to 300 mil. So it will cover more of the turf.
Okay.
Yeah. So it is impacted
So,
already, but
you are having ongoing discussions. So what does that consist of in terms of potential? I mean, I'm just look. I mean, I understand you appreciate the importance of the wetlands and the impact of that, and you're not against those, but it's how you mitigate the major impact or potentially major impact on the turf. I mean, it could be affected now in a significant event. So
yes, we
how
have
much
seen,
more?
Yeah, we have seen that it is already affected, and that's also in our validation of that model and previous events. It has been affected. So we are currently talking to Wellington Hockey and with the parks team, working to see if we can do anything to alleviate that, and then also alternative option looking at what other ways we could with the parks team we could try and solve that problem, not necessarily a physical solving of the problem, but looking at what are the chances of those things happening? Looking at additional modelling to see at what stage we think that it could be more affected. Because at this stage, our modelling is with the increased rainfall, etc., and taking climate change into account. So we are doing more work around exactly what those impacts are currently.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions by councillors? Yes, Councillor Hayward.
Kia ora, Mr. Chair. Can I get some commentary on the building that is at the northern end of the turf? That's also owned by Hockey Wellington or leased to Hockey Wellington. And in that scenario, the modelling I'm seeing means that that would be affected by a 10, a 30 and 100-year storm to varying extents. Do we have, is that also in the mix with regards to any additional mitigation measures that affect the turf?
Who's going to answer that?
Okay. So at this stage, it's that is the change room facilities at the bottom of the building, and those are already affected by at all levels, the 10, 30 and 100 year. So the impacts wouldn't be significantly more with slightly more rainfall and a high level of flooding in that area. So yeah, that impact there's no plans currently to reduce that.
Is that Jeff? You? Okay. Are there any other questions by councillors? Remembering, so thank you, Christine, for coming along, highlighting that issue, which I understand, will be the subject of ongoing discussions, and we'll do what is possible. But let's get back to the what we're hearing today, what we're here for today, which is the approval to grant an easement over Elsdon Park, which is what we're actually voting on. Remember, we've talked about this before. It's clear what we're talking about here in terms of an easement. Does anyone want to offer anything specific on that topic or ask any questions? No. That being the case, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. Thank you very much. So that moves us on to the local government remits, which you will have all seen. I guess I'm going to move this to get it onto the table. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Ford, thank you. Now, I guess here what we have is some recommendations by officers. Remember, we have to approve these so that the mayor can vote at the local government conference. So that's what we're about. Now, we have the officers' recommendations in front of us. We also have considered as councillors, and our list agrees with officers except for one, which is the first one around tree protection. So I wonder whether we can ask, and we don't want to get into discussions about all the rest of them, can we have somebody from council and officer talk to us about why they recommended we support the tree protection move by Auckland City Council, I think it was.
Through you, Chair, I'll ask Stuart to come up and speak to that.
Thank you, Stuart.
Kia ora koutou, good morning, Mr Chair. Essentially, the reason why we have supported the remit is that it is consistent with our proposed district plan policy around protecting significant natural areas.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I'll yank it towards you.
And also our notable tree protection policy as well. So essentially, what Auckland Council is proposing is a policy that sits between SNAs and notable trees. So it's for groups of trees that don't meet the significance threshold for SNAs, and they are more than just single trees. So it's very much in line with the policy that we have adopted, hence our recommendation.
Okay. I mean, I guess personally, mine was I was looking at their submission. It was all about Auckland and the issues they have around trees and protection. I didn't, see any significance really for the rest of us. But you're saying that it supports what's in our district plan.
Very much so, yeah. It addresses an issue whereby we are seeing a reduction in urban canopy. So we are seeing a loss of trees overall. And for the reason that we can't, because they, as I said, they don't meet the significance threshold, it's just another tool we can use to protect urban trees which are of value.
Can I just ask, so what you're saying, we are experiencing a loss in urban canopy. Is that where do you get that information from?
So that's the Auckland example.
That's the Auckland example. Is that true in Porirua?
I can't say factually if that's true here or not.
I mean, I would have thought that we've been planting so many trees that, this is all about big trees, significant trees, trees that people see in somebody else's backyard and want to prevent them from cutting it down so that they can, build a new house or do whatever. So, or am I getting it wrong? Mayor Baker?
No, I'm like you, because I think we were probably the ones that have. There's a couple of people that haven't voted on it because they decided they didn't want to make a decision. So hence the reason the numbers are as they are. But I don't want someone to be able to say that tree is significant in your background and you've got to keep it, or it's on your boundary and you've got to keep it just because you decide it's damn well significant when it could be blocking my son or anything else. And that was the reason I voted as I was, because it's all very well to say keep a tree. You can plant another tree. That concerns me. We've got so many people complaining about the height of our trees. We don't cut for views, I know that, but for sun, and we go, oh, well, no, it's too bad and we can't afford it. So this is just another tool to keep a tree that, yeah, okay.
So, do you have a response to that, Stuart?
No, I think Mayor Baker makes a fair enough point. Yeah, trees can cause an issue. I guess the intention is to retain those trees that have high ecological value, which, as I say, aren't identified in significant natural areas and aren't protected through notable trees. To actually try and schedule every notable tree or every large tree would be a huge exercise. So it's a more general sort of approach.
So this is a catch-all for something that's missed or they couldn't get onto, protected tree or whatever. It seems like, just seems a step too far to me, personally. But, yeah, Josh.
Could I just clarify? So my reading of the remit is that this would essentially just be giving councils greater ability to do this if they wanted to do it. It wouldn't require councils to act in a particular way. So doesn't this really just give councils more options? It's not forcing us to do anything. Is that correct?
That's correct, yeah.
So,
It gives officers more options to say, this is what we want, and then it still has to come. So I'm not sure.
would that come back to council,
Yeah.
those things? Would those decisions come back to council, or would they just be made by officers?
So, correct me if I'm wrong, but it gives us the ability to develop a policy that would enforce, that would do this. So actually, it could do either. You know, it could come back to council or you could delegate it to officers. That's my understanding of what that does.
From my point of view, we've had so much issue over our significant tree policy, and we've had years of going out to residents coming back, and 2 or 3 trees have caused so many things on people's. Yeah, you can't sway me on this one. It's a no for me.
What do other councillors think? Well, it was a no for me, and I'm still not convinced that we don't have the tools to do whatever now, and I don't think that we're facing an issue of, decimating trees in the Porirua area. Councillor Duncan.
There are criteria that have to be met to actually classify a tree as specifically special, surely, and the owner has the right to appeal that decision. So it's not locking it up completely. And with some developers, it'd be quite easy for them to clear fell a whole area. And what if Tāne Mahuta's in the middle of it?
Impossible.
Yep.
I think we're talking about something different, aren't we, Stuart?
It's gone.
You would have been prevented.
Oh, look, I mean, it really. Just to reiterate, it's the groups of trees that don't meet the significance threshold for an SNA. It's not specific trees which are in a notable tree schedule. It's groups of trees which may be of value ecologically that by themselves can't be a significant natural area. So it's really just, I think, as Wendy has explained, we would develop a policy. We would probably do an identification process, and then we would come to council with it.
Another identification process. We've just been through a huge process with significant natural areas, haven't we?
We have, and I get the other point is that it's a tool that we could use. I think, as Councillor Trillin mentioned, it's something that would be available to councils if we wanted to use it. So there's no necessity to do it.
This is
Councillor Duncan, then Councillor Trillin.
Can I change my vote to no?
Yes, you can. Councillor Trillin.
Cheers, thank you. If in a hypothetical where this went through and we're able to do this, what sort of impact would that likely have on the number of trees we have to consider on a case-by-case basis? Would this, if we just had a blanket policy that council approved, would that actually reduce the amount of trees we'd look at individually?
Oh, look, we'd have to do some evidence gathering on that, Councillor Trillin. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. Apologies.
Sounds like, more cost or whatever. I'm sorry? Oh, Nick, sorry.
So through you,
to see
Chair, I'll perhaps make 2 points. I think, one, the context for Auckland is Kōrero trees. So they've got a specific issue, and I think that's where some of this has come from, which isn't so relevant to us in terms of having that kind of dieback type problem. So I think that might be where this has come from. Secondly, and obviously that's not so relevant for us. Secondly, we wouldn't look at this being in the stage we're at with a PDP for a long time, and it wouldn't be something that we would consider a priority to look at, but nice to know it's in the toolbox. But pragmatically, it's not something that we would enter into for a while now based on where we've got our plans. So I'll just temper that with a bit of pragmatism around what it would look like in reality, even if it did go through. So thank you.
Thanks, Nick. I'm still not. Actually, I'm going to ask for a show of hands because, what will happen at the conference is that, this could go through anyway. It doesn't matter what we vote. I don't know whether other councils are having similar discussions to us. We will see.
Yeah, and can I just say that your votes will probably change because every councillor was asked and they are on that piece of paper. So the ones who are here are not going to get to vote for them because we're doing it here. So the numbers will change.
Well, they're not here. Yeah, they're not here. They can't vote. Sorry. So I'm going to just put it, just informally that, so we have voted no. Can I have a show of hands for those that still vote no? For the tree protection we're talking about, just tree protection. Those that still vote no, hold your hands up. 1, 2. Can you count? 4, 5, is it? Yeah. And those that vote yes? 1, 2, 3. Okay. So it's a no. All right. Is there any other discussion on? Well, I'm just going to assume that, seeing as we agree, we've got for the others, we've got we concur with the yeses and nos that you see. There's just one no, one further no. The election participation. Councillor Trillan, do you want to?
Yeah, I was wondering if
about that, I guess.
Yeah, I was wondering if we could hear from officers what the rationale for the recommendation of not supporting that one.
That's the election participation, number 4. Is it? Do we have someone? Steve, is that you?
Yes, it is. Sorry, I got distracted by something. I'm just catching up. Yeah, number 4.
No cell phones.
Actually, I am not 100% clear. Linley wrote this one, and I haven't had a discussion with her about it. Did you, Jack?
Kia ora, councillors. Through the chair, so our rationale for suggesting do not support on this remit was based around the fact that council has the knowledge in our community to effectively engage with our community, and additionally the Electoral Commission isn't well resourced to handle local elections at this stage as well.
Fair point. How does that sit with you, Josh?
Yeah, no, that's fair enough, and I guess it makes sense. So the reason I asked is because on my reading of it, I had initially supported it, and I guess I like the idea of a standardised approach to local elections taken across the country by the Electoral Commission. But if it's the case that they don't have the resources currently, we're able to continue doing it. It's not a hill I'm going to die on, put it that way.
Okay, you're not going to die on the ditch. Okay, so now I'm Councillor Hayward.
Kia ora, Mr. Chair. I actually don't have a question. It's just that I strongly support the item 6, the accommodation supplement. And I've raised this with the Mayor previously. The last time that these rules were amended were April 2018. A lot has changed in the last 3 years with regards to, in particular, the rates of private rentals in Porirua. So a review is perhaps the bare minimum that the government can do to actually raise those levels, because I'm thinking of people like Carla who live in my community and raise this very issue with me, that $150 a week doesn't even touch the sides of rental in Porirua. Kia ora.
Noted. Given that we're saying yes to this anyway.
Yes, we had 100% for that one round the table, Jeff.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do now is put the recommendation. We're actually going to the recommendation with the exception that tree protection becomes non-support. Right? Do we understand what we're voting for? Yep. All right. All those in favour? Those against? Carried. Thank you, everybody. So that now moves us to item 6.3, which is the proposed district plan, decision-making powers. I'll move this to get it onto the table. Do I have a seconder, please? Thanks, Councillor Trillan. Now, this is, as I understand, Stuart, you can come forward just to fix the slight error that which I thought we were agreeing to previously anyway, with regard to the hearing panel being able to make total decisions on the proposed district plan, as opposed to the addition that we talked about previously. Correct?
That's right. Yeah. So, Mr. Chair, yeah, apologies for the error. I think that hopefully the paper speaks for itself.
Yeah, the paper does speak for itself. So, does anyone want to comment where it's not clear? No. In that case, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Those against? Carried.
Thank you.
Thanks. We're now going to move into public excluded. moving we do that. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor Duncan, thank you very much. All those in favour? Those against?